afternoon and namaskar. I think the excitement finished post lunch, and the previous session was quite engaging. We have to live up to the expectations from the interest generated in the previous session, and we've got a very interesting topic at hand. And why I say interesting is we are looking at faster onboarding and we are looking at secure onboarding. Now, I would at the outset like to thank each one of the panel members. Each one of them are experts in their respective fields. And over the course of next 30 minutes, we are wanting to just cover some basic important points that we need to keep in mind on how the industry is shaping up and what are the new ways of onboarding or speeding up the onboarding process that the industry will adopt. Now, I can read a lot of numbers, and just to put some things in perspective, around about 68 to 70% of the BFSI customer acquisitions are now on the digital medium. We have around about 1.4 trillion payments to the digital medium. That is what is projected. I can also put into perspective that around about 83% of the ecosystem partners are looking at digitization and AI as an active solution for digitizing the onboarding journeys. We have around about 30 to 40% workforce which is comfortable, aware, and looking at proactive solutions for fastening up this process. Um, However, there's another side to it. My apologies. I'll speak a little simply. That side is India and Bharat, or Bharat and Viksit Bharat, the way we want to put it. And why I put this into context is that we are sitting here holding a mobile or a tablet. Everything is at the touch of your fingers. You're used to 10-minute delivery. You're used to around about 1 to 2 minute onboarding. DigiYatra gets you access to the airport in 30 seconds, and so on and so forth. There is somebody who has to walk around about 5 to 10 kilometers. The distance will wait for some time. I'm not going to quantify the time. I don't want to get into a situation where I quote and then I'm held accountable for it. But on a very serious note, there is another set of our own, peers who have to take that additional step. Now, with this as a base, I come to the session opener, and I'll request each one of you, starting with Neeta, to give a 20-second, overview of how digital transformation has reshaped or shaped the onboarding process, and what do you feel are the pain points that we need to look at. And I'll go from Neeta onwards all the way to Gaurav.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I think what you outlined actually can't be covered in 20 seconds, is what I'll just give a very opening remark that just like in every facet of life, there's a digital transformation. So banking is no different. I mean, the entire end-to-end life cycle of banking is no different, starting from onboarding. And basically, with all our developments around Aadhaar, the India stack, with the penetration of smartphones, the basic thing around onboarding is that the journey to the branch has become more like an episode of past history. Now, but as you said, that's more restricted to the urban centers. What is probably occupying the minds of most of us now is actually how do we handle for the customers who are not so well connected or perhaps not that digitally literate. And that's where I think the focus for everybody has to be.
Okay, so Cyril, over to you.
If you look at the entire onboarding and the digital transformation space, and especially after COVID, every organization, whether it be BFSI or finance, has done more or less the same thing. The set guidelines as far as the onboarding is concerned. But over the last 2 years, the entire industry has seen the importance around, while we do the onboarding, whether the checks and balances are correct in terms of whether to establish whether it's a genuine customer or not. Last 18 months, the major focus has been around how do you establish the authenticity of a customer, and how do you establish using alternate data, using his digital footprint, ensure that he is not he's not a fraudster, because that's what we have seen over the last 18 to 24 months, and that's how most of the organizations have now strengthened their onboarding, this thing. I think, I for me, and coming from a bank, the whole approach is now has to be integrated in such a way that you are rather than finding at the time of the onboarding, by using technology that he is already a genuine customer. I think that's the shift where the industry needs to look at it.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Akshay. So maybe to keep it very short, of course, we all know how the account opening onboarding happens from days to hours to minutes right now. So I'm not, maybe the subsequent questions will answer that. But I just want to focus on the second part of your question on the challenges. This stems from the previous topic discussion on the frauds. So the basic challenge or the prima facie challenge which banks like us are facing, how to balance between security and experience of a customer to ensure that the right customer is onboarded, rather as Cyril was telling, fraudsters are not onboarded. So that's a challenge right now we are all facing, how to create a balance between customer experience, convenience, and security. So that's in short I want to tell.
So Gaurav, your points, and you do a lot of grunt work at the back end.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry for my voice. I am coming from Delhi, so it's a bit of a mess. But just excuse me for that. So I look at it from 2 points of view. One, I've been a career banker, and then I moved into the fintech side. So obviously, this whole digitization has made the entire process very fast and seamless and frictionless. So which is great both for the person who's applying for it or the person or the entity who's giving it. So it is efficiency to the core. The second great thing which has happened now, um, there is a lot of focus on keeping your documents clean. There's a lot of focus on linking your bank to mobile to Aadhaar and so on and so forth. There's a lot of focus on ensuring that your bureau scores are good. 10 साल पहले लोग कहते थे क्या फर्क पड़ता है क्रेडिट स्कोर से, बट टुडे एवरीबडी सेज यार जीएसटी रिटर्न्स फाइल करो टाइम पे, keep your scores clean. So the whole financial prudence is really making a big difference in the mindsets and culture of the people, which is helping the entire economy and this whole NP and so on and so forth, largely, right? So I think that's something which is really good that is happening. And this is from the macro side. However, having said that, India is a growing country and a lot of people need credit. A lot of people need a lot of things. So while this segment who is educated on who has a smartphone, who's savvy digitally, who's able to keep all the documents in bureau clean, is able to access this. But what about this 60-70% of the population who's either not of that age, which is digital savvy, or not tier 1 tier 2, who are not really smart enough to keep all these documents? What happens to them, right? So how do we collectively get that piece to also improve, will only help this entire digitization as a process. Otherwise, good things will keep happening, but that will happen only for 20-25% of the people.
Okay, so I think fair points. We need a cultural change. Quoting Neeta, and apologies. This is what we all look at now. Physical banking is a pain point that we look at in our index list whenever we are looking at things. We are looking at everything being provided to us where we are, or we should be able to access.
Just I'll just check you there. So physical banking is a pain point for young people. Old people still love going to the bank, spending time with the branch manager, having that cup of tea.
Completely agree, and I will echo this sentiment. Having a set of parents who are 75 plus, and you tend to speak to them. This is one common point that we tend to agree on. So a lot of things have changed, and Cyril and Neeta, I'll come over to you, and first to you, Cyril. So there's been a lot of talk about blockchain, and it's been going on at the back end for different forums, different time frames. So do you feel it's just a buzzword, or it's going to change the way we work? We look at onboarding, or we look at you can say distributed ledgers. How do you feel that the industry is going to leverage blockchain as a solution?
So I think time has come where you take it's like approved once and reuse the approval again and again. I think that time has come because the process of KYC is not going to change, right? But the same KYC reutilization of the KYC among institutions who are using these validations for onboarding. I think the unification. I mean, let me put it in this way: the omni institution approval of mechanism has to be brought in, and obviously it's not going to replace the entire infrastructure of KYC, but it will definitely reduce the cost and the TAT for onboarding the customer. And I think it's no more a buzzword, but yes, it cannot be done overnight. It has to be taken, product by product, case by case, do pilots, check out the outcome, and then roll it out gradually. So I think, large banks, definitely time has come, because that is where they spend a lot of time, money, and effort as far as onboarding is concerned. But unification of the entire KYC process across, I think is the need of the hour now.
Okay. So, Neeta, over to you. And I would request you can feel free to quote some examples. We've had, and you've been, in the industry for a very long time. We were having a chat prior to the discussion. There's been a gap between traditional financial institutions in terms of conventional banks adopting digitization as a medium, and then on changing the complete onboarding journeys. And there has been a gap with DCCBs or cooperative banks. So, do you feel that the DCCB should outsource this process, or they have the wherewithal to come up to date and up to speed and match step by step with conventional banks?
So, well, actually, we do have, a very wide spectrum of banks existing in India. You have private sector banks, you have public sector banks, you have the cooperative banks, and of course, you have not just banks, but you have non-banking financial companies as well, and then you have fintech. So you have an entire spectrum. And I think that as far as DCCBs or any entity which is not transformed, digitally transformed is concerned, uh, they will lose out, somewhere along the way, because it's like the customers are not going to be accepting things which are going to be very traditional. Even as youngsters, the smartphone penetration etc is increasing. Everybody wants things done very fast, and I think what will drive the change will be from the customer expectation. So I think as time passes, a lot of these lines will get blurred, and I think the way to go forward is, collaborate with the fintechs, and that will enable them to move faster, is my sense. And just in the earlier panel, we heard that term collaboration. And I think when things are moving fast, the best way to move forward is to collaborate and to share whatever resources can be shared from a regulatory perspective.
So I think I'll echo the sentiment of collaboration. Without the fintechs or the TSPs providing scale solutions which can be adopted, we find a gap, and that's what all the regulators are now looking at, ensuring that these gaps, instead of coming out in a manner that they are not tested, you're being given access to sandboxes where you can, carry out POCs for solutions at scale. So, Gaurav and Sumoth, I come to you. Gaurav, I'll come to you first, again, for the reason that there's a reasonable amount of grunt work that you do. So, there's this point that comes up that security checks are basically excuses, or, they are for conventional institutions for onboarding, where the processes are outdated. Do you feel that is so? And what do you feel should be the outlook for changing these processes?
I mean, so it depends which side of the table you're sitting on. But I think
I chose this query for you because you're sitting on both sides of the team.
no. So I think we are going through a change, whichever side you're in. I think things are changing very very rapidly. One, B, there is a huge amount of data which is just flying all over and with everybody, right? And today, data is like the new oil, if you really ask me, because everybody wants that data, and because everything is digitized. I mean, this can be converted into revenue and money very, very swiftly. Uh, so obviously, the checks will have to be kept, because if it goes unregulated, I mean, it can have repercussions at different types of level. So, for example, the unfortunate incident which happened in Delhi at the Red Fort. I was doing some due diligence, on the car because that number was given. So I did some due diligence on the number plate, and you'll be surprised that I was not able to find one wrong thing with that RC. Even the pollution certificate was updated 3 days before the incident, right? So which means that you can run as many checks as you want, but the people who are doing or who intend to do these things are two steps ahead, right? So I think we are going to the transformation stage. It is helping everybody. It is leading to efficiency, but we'll have to keep checks and balances because unknowingly we may end up doing more harm than good if this is not done in a mature manner. Is what I feel.
Okay, so Sumoth, this one is for you. There is always a very fine balance between customer convenience and fraud, the risks imposed by fraud. So, what do you feel is the balance that you feel that we should strike when we are looking at faster onboarding and keeping the process secure as well?
Yeah, as I earlier mentioned, it's not an either or. It has to be a balanced security with the customer convenience. Being in the payment space in the BFS industry for a long time, I always quote one example. During 2009-10, when Reserve Bank mandated that all card transactions for debit card and credit card has to be with an OTP for online transactions. Initially, there was a lot of hue and cry. No, this will completely jeopardize the online transaction on the cards. This will come down. The customer convenience will be lost. But we know what happened after that. People's confidence increased. They actually did more and more card online transactions using card because they feel that's secure. Now OTP is coming, so even if my card number is getting compromised or my CVV is getting compromised, the transaction will not happen. So of course, always it should be a balance between security and convenience. And we have a number of examples, especially in India, and regulators are playing a key role here. If you take tokenization, which happened maybe last couple of years, where you can safely store your card in the e-com merchants and all. So you need not key enter all those card details for each and every transaction where you are having recurrent, whether it's Amazon, Flipkart, where you frequently transact. So from the customer point of view, it's very convenient, but from the security point of view, from the bank side also, it's secure. That's one example. Second example, maybe in the days to come, what I normally feel is that security is one thing which customer should not feel while doing a transaction. It should be something which happens in the background. Like there are now a number of tools are available because being the head of fintech partnerships, we work with a lot of fintechs in the industry. Lot of tools available for adaptive authentication, step-up authentication. If a customer routinely transact using a same phone or a same PC, why we are asking certain security questions at each every point of time? If you are able to validate, yeah, this is the same person as again quoting as Cyril was telling, is the same person who is declared as the same person who is doing the transaction. Why we create a friction in the time of a transaction? But if we find some sort of a anomaly or a change in the pattern of the transaction, of course, there's always an option for a step-up authentication through a number of means, whether it can be an OTP or it can be a biometric. So many things are available in the market. So it's always, it will go hand in hand as uh, you were telling, Gaurav was telling earlier. Fraudsters are always one step ahead, but of course, BFI's institutions along with the TSPs are always trying to catch up with that. Sometimes we are also a little bit ahead. So in short, what I will tell is that it's not what is a lack of security or less security which you are going forward. It will be invisible security which we should look forward to ease the customer convenience along with ensuring that security in the transaction.
So I'll just add one thing. We should not call them fraudsters. That's the wrong word. They are experts. And who are these experts? They're actually us only. Largely, if you see, people from this industry who have created these solutions are the ones who are going and breaking it now. So wo- it all sounds very good that Jamtar and all those days are, I think, over. People who are product managers and techs who are creating this are the ones who are now breaking this and taking advantage of it.
Okay, so on a lighter note, the best RTI advocates are those who have worked in the system. Like, if I may sum it up. So, Cyril, I'll come over to you, and this is indirectly related to me. I represent a regulator, AML, KYC, lot of buzzword, multi-factor authentication keeps on taking place. Lot of solutions, options are there. So, are the current existing AML, KYC solutions, they are enablers or they are bottlenecks?
Again, depending upon whether you're a customer or an organization, but I would rather put it in this way that both, it can't be a bottleneck definitely, but it is more to do, bring out more efficiency and accuracy in terms of, ensuring that the customer with whom you are interacting is actually a genuine customer. And that is how, while the current processes, I would, in my view, coming from a bank, and being an ex-banker, it requires a lot of process re-engineering. In terms of today, most of the checks and balances are happening, at least most of the banks are doing as a post facto. How do you bring it to the real time or a near real time to ensure that you stop it at the time, either if he is onboarded or he is on the verge of getting onboarded? So that's number one. Number two is, if you look at from a customer's perspective, if at times what also happens is that a genuine customer is also stopped from getting onboarded, at least that education or that information needs to go back to the customer, that why he has been stopped. Either there is some disconnect in the documents that he is carrying out, or there is some fraud that has taken place. But the reverse, passing of the information to the customer is very, very important, so that he becomes aware, and he also helps the organization by ensuring that he is providing all the right details. So it's not to answer your question straight, it's not a showstopper or something, but it's to do with bringing out more efficiency. However, there is a lot of scope of improvement as far as the current organizations, the way they follow their KYC AML processes.
So I would say, so can I have a raise of hands of how many of you are still using any form of identity document and don't refer to UIDI as such, which you are using in physical form? If I may have a raise of hands. Okay, I'll rephrase the question. How many of you are using it in the digital form? If I can have a raise of hands. So I think that answers the point. So Sumoth, I come over to you. Thank you. Um, uh, there is always this dilemma between the regulators, specifically RBI and SEBI guidelines, and you're wanting to do some amount of, I will not use the term balancing, but you want to ensure compliance, and at the same time, you want to be proactive in bringing forward solutions to scale. So your viewpoints on it.
uh, Especially in the BFSI segment, the regulators, whether it is SEBI or RBI, are very proactive in introducing measures to aid compliance through technology and all. The classic example which I can quote is during 2020, Reserve Bank introduced video KYC. So that entirely changed the ecosystem in the digital onboarding piece. So before that, either somebody has to physically go to the premises or the customer has to come to the branch, do a face-to-face interaction, get the document signed and all. Even though UID helped us with eKYC, Aadhaar-based OTP and all, but with the enabling guidelines on video KYC, the entire onboarding system changed. So all the banks have, especially banks, NBFC, everyone is utilize that particular opportunity, and now onboarding happens within minutes with the help of Aadhaar OTP plus a video KYC combination. Onboarding happens. That's one example I can tell. Second thing, especially from the regulatory, CKYC, central KYC. That right now I'm from a banking sector. I can say even better than the banks. I think mutual funds and mutual fund houses are most adopted it fairly well compared to the banks, because we have some more restrictions in using CKYC data for onboarding. But again, this shared KYC concept changed the landscape a lot, because the regulatory prescriptions very clearly defined on these things, how CKYC can be used, what all parameters can be used. So these two regulatory guidelines very well helped in the onboarding side. That's one thing I want to always highlight. And especially a second thing, not directly related to the onboarding, but since the regulatory guidelines are mentioned, Reserve Bank came out with digital lending guidelines. Very clear framework was created by RBI, define what is a digital lending and what all things has to be done by either a regulatory entity or a LSP or a digital lending DLA, digital lending. So the digital lending onboarding, again, normally we're talking about onboarding in the context of SB account opening or liability account opening. But this regulatory guideline helped a lot in onboarding customers for the lending journeys also, whether it's for personal loans or whether it's for credit cards. Credit cards, now I can tell my personal example. Right now, within 5 to 7 minutes, we are issuing a virtual credit card to a customer if he's passed through all the regulatory and the credit norms of the bank. So regulatory guidelines are always aiding the BFSI industry to ease the onboarding process, whether it's through video KYC, CKYC, or digital lending guidelines. This I wanted to highlight here.
Just add one thing here. So, I mean, not going into the deep depth of the question, one of my mentors always told me that the reason the brakes exist in the car is not to brake the car only, but also to ensure you can go faster. So if you want to go fast and you have the confidence that there are brakes which when I apply will save me from a crash, is the right balance to have. And we are a very complex country of 150 crore people, with a $3,000 per capita, and everybody is looking to make money, and we are very sharp. So if you just let the floodgates open, it can go anywhere. So yeah.
And just to add, while we are talking onboarding, majority of these onboardings relate to the digital straight through onboarding when we talk, but there's still a lot of scope which is there where there is an assisted way of onboarding. I think that is the area where everyone has to now focus on into how do you make that process as much more seamless and efficient.
So basically, if I would put it this way, that the CSPs in tier 3, 4, and 5 need a tech upgrade, and this is a urgent requirement. So all those who've gone, I'm sure all of us have grassroots somewhere or the other, which are tier 3, 4, and 5, and CSPs have one window shop for every service that they provide, and different channels that they provided for from one window. Uh, I come over to you, Gaurav, once again, and this is more with regards to emerging technology. We spoke about blockchain. We spoke about there is digital wallets, and a lot of talk going on about CBDC, and specifically CBDCP, programmable as such. So, do you feel that would be a more secure solution?
See, any solution, which is going to make the efficiency higher is going to be a secure solution. I mean, for example, if I were to give you, there is a lot of talk about mule accounts and everything, right? It's a problem which no one has been able to solve completely. Even RBI, which is given the mule hunter.ai, is more a reactive approach of transaction monitoring. But a lot of people are still trying, and this problem is only getting larger and larger in India, because post COVID, with the whole amount of migration that happened, a whole lot of people who lost jobs, mule account became a big revenue source for a lot of people, right? So CBDC, mule accounts, any of these things, there's a lot of scope for improvement in India. Yeah, but a lot of work still needs to happen for this to really percolate down to the last level and have benefits. Otherwise it will be a lot of good talk like AI and everything, but results आने के लिए उसको हमको deeper करना पड़ेगा.
So this one is, Neeta ji, for you a little surprise. From the experience set, I'm taking the liberty. There's been a lot of talk, and the DPDP rules have been promulgated. Everybody is looking at consent managers. Everybody is looking at, ensuring compliance. We have a roadmap which is 18 months on the way. Your views on it? What do you feel? Will the sector be able to comply to the guidelines in this time frame that's been provided, or we'll need more time?
Well, if we're talking about the banking sector per se, I think the banking sector is accustomed to doing whatever compliance is required in whatever time frame. So, yeah, it will pose some challenges, some probably reworking of workflows, but I don't honestly see it as a very big issue because, anyway, most of us, most of the banks have been operating in a system where data security, data protection has been important. Now, as we look at a wider spectrum of players, yes, I think everybody will just have to be more careful. It is an important angle to be considered.
So, before we call it a close, I think we've had a very engaging discussion. The time clock is showing me around about a minute available with me, and I will leave it open to you. And we'll start from Gaurav. One or two key takeaways from today's discussion that you would want each of our participants to keep at the back of their mind when they are looking at these 2 points: faster and secure onboarding.
So as I said, this is a great thing, but it is benefiting mostly tier one, tier two cities, because that's where a lot of these NBFCs are giving loans, because this is where the job market is, and this is where the documentation and salary slips and so on so is much clear. But how we can take it down to tier four, tier five, tier six, how we can benefit them and let them also experience this will be one thing. Second would be, so while DPDP has come into play, it will have its own time to play. But I think even from the other side, we need to really, because there is so much sources of data, so many different sources, how we can bring, if not all but most of it, onto one platform. So आप bureau score अलग करते हो, verification अलग करते हो, underwriting अलग करते हो, X अलग करते हो, फिर mobile के through अलग करते हो. How do we bring so much of this information on one platform, which can then lead to some kind of scoring model, and things become even more faster and more efficient, to take things forward without spending so much money for so many things unnecessarily. Because the number of hits, when I see a person who goes through a loan journey for say a 50,000 loan, and he has to give 6 7 time OTPs, while it is consent based, but बैंक स्टेटमेंट अलग ले रहे हैं, एग्रीमेंट अकाउंट एग्रीगेटर अलग ले रहे हैं, आधार का अलग ले रहे हैं, मतलब is it really required to give 7 OTPs for one journey? I mean, so how we
So
can bring it on
integration is
platform?
what you're looking at. Integration is what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, maybe all platforms cannot be integrated, but do we need to give 7 OTPs for to take a guy for 50,000 rupee loan is a question.
So, Sumoth, your closing thoughts?
Maybe I'll summarize in one sentence, maybe for my friends in the room. So, if you tomorrow you're going to start a relationship with any of the institutions in the country, if you feel there is some friction, please understand that this friction is for the good of you to ensure that it's secure. Yeah, that's all I just want to summarize.
Okay, excellent point. Cyril, over to you, please.
I think I echo Gaurav's thought, and I think unification with the DPDP coming in, with the unification of the consent management, and not going through so many OTPs, and at the same time, how can we improve the efficiency on onboarding for tier 4, 5, 6? I think that's the problem. It's a good problem to solve, and that's where I take it. That's the opportunity where it lies.
So, Neeta ji, your last thoughts.
So I think I'll just focus on something perhaps which I didn't get a chance to mention earlier in the points I made, is about the assisted onboarding. So while in the urban metros, most of us will be very comfortable to work with an app and do everything in a self-service mode. But when you're looking at, the more semi-urban, tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, where we need financial inclusion to happen, then obviously they're not so comfortable for different reasons, or they may not be having the access. So whereas that's the where we need this assisted onboarding. And I think as an industry we all need to work towards making that process simpler. So maybe the BCs can have simplified process, maybe for lower risk customers it can be simplified KYC. Having said that, I mean, there's no gainsaying that using digital technologies is the way to onboard customers. The only thing is we have to see how can it be done safely and more efficiently.
So, I think, ladies and gentlemen, that gets us to a close. But before I sum it up, I've got 2 3 points to make. Rate at which the fraudsters are kind of, bypassing the system requires for the whole process of any onboarding to be made in a manner that you and me as a customer, and please put yourself in that shoe, have minimum friction and feel most secure about that process. There's a requirement to ensure that every tier, and we talk tier 1 2 3 4 5 6, but ultimately these tiers constitute the whole nation. Every tier has adequate amount of accessibility, knowledge, and a learning curve given to it for them to utilize the benefits of digitization. And lastly, every solution that we plan has to be in a manner that we would have thought it through, that the person who finds it most challenging to use it, can we make it simple for him and her? With those closing thoughts, thank you so much. Thank you to each one of you. And thank you to the organizers. I think we've had a very productive session and we finished on time.
Thank